Coach, hey, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. Appreciate you taking the time. Like I mentioned, I've been hounding Coach Dunshee to get back on the channel. I don't know, but I have this sneaking suspicion that being on my channel has catapulted him to the stratosphere of fame and fortune. So he doesn't have time for me now. So hence we get to talk today. But really, I'm grateful that you're able to join me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, did some background. You've been the assistant coach at Washington College, I think, since 2021. Did I read that right?
That's right.
Well, I'm just curious, what's your experience been like? What's your soccer journey been like? And how did you get into, how'd you get to Washington College?
Yeah, so my experience at Washington College has been wonderful. When I joined the team in 2021, I was really impressed with the culture of the team and the guys on the team. We've got tremendous guys. They are smart, they're funny, they're hardworking, they're ambitious, and they're really bought into what we're trying to do. So from a coaching perspective, you couldn't ask for more from a group of guys. So that's the team. And then the team, kind of behind the team, the support staff, the school, administration, alumni, the players' families have all been tremendous as well. So it's a small school, but it feels like a very close-knit community. And so it's been an overall wonderful experience. The success that we've had has also, helped and gone a long way to having the buy-in and the support from everyone. Coach Dunshee, for about 10 years, was putting a lot of work into developing the program. And I was very lucky to step in at a moment when the program kind of took a step to the next level. And we had a lot of success in 2021. So from my perspective, it's, this is how it's always been. This is just how it is for Washington College. But there was a lot of hard work that he put in to take the program to where it is now. And, and then the other side of it too, that's made it a tremendous experience, is working with Coach Dunshee. He's a fantastic leader, mentor, coach, and coach educator. I think our relationship in the way that the program is run is based on trust and love and giving everyone a lot of responsibility. Mm-hmm. So it's been great for me as a coach because we collaborate on everything. I'm learning a ton from him. And when I came in, we talked. I've known him for many years. And we talked about, okay, how can my talents as a coach add to his talents as a coach, and how can we take this program to a whole other level? And so we work together on everything. And then, in some areas where I have a lot of responsibility, matches my experience and background. So it's been a great working relationship. Mm-hmm. And in terms of how did I get to Washington College, that goes back to Coach Dunshee. Again, he was actually my junior year of high school. He became my high school coach. He was an assistant on for my high school, and that was when he first got into coaching. So I knew him back then, and he was the first coach that I had who had played the game at a high level, mm-hmm. who understood the game. It wasn't, I had some great coaches, great people. But they were, dads who got into the sport because their sons were playing, and they were volunteers and great people, but not, a great depth of knowledge of the game or how to coach the game, teach the game. So it was different. And that was when he was really getting into coaching. And then I started coaching with him in summer camps. And so that's how I first started coaching. Back then, you probably remember, it was a lot different.
Yeah.
in terms of clubs, and
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh.
you couldn't make a career out of it,
No.
or it was very difficult. So at some point, when I was out of college and I'd been working in the summers doing camps and trainings, team trainings and stuff like that in the fall and spring, I decided, well, this has been great, but now I need to go get a real job,
Yeah.
and so I left coaching for a while. I went to law school. I practiced law. I still do, um, and then eventually just couldn't stay away from the game. So got back into the game, got back into coaching. This is all out in California, and during the pandemic, I was in LA coaching, and there was no games or training for like a whole year. It ended up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was tough there. We were a little bit isolated from family, so we moved back to the East Coast, back to Annapolis, Maryland. And the first person I hit up was Coach Dunshee to say, hey, what's going on in Maryland? What's the soccer scene, and how can I get back into coaching? And it kind of fell into place where I ended up joining him at Washington College. So it's a little bit of background on how I ended up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you're a lawyer,
Yes.
and you said, did you say, or did I hear that correctly? You still practice? Is that
Yes.
sort of, you do that, and then you're the assistant? Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a small family business, so
mhm.
it's flexible. It's a nice blend of both worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you? You're from the East Coast because you went to Fordham, I see, and Dickinson. So are you from Maryland? Are you
Yeah,
originally?
I'm born in California and then moved to Maryland in middle school to
Hmm.
Annapolis, and then so grew up in Annapolis,
Yeah.
and then college on the East Coast, and then I went to law school on the West Coast. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've
Okay.
been back and forth.
All right. Um, well, the I'm glad you came back to soccer to some extent because, like I said to some folks who I know, some coaches who have gotten accounting degrees and were accountants, I am sure that if you ever decided to dedicate yourself fully to the practice of law, there will still be law. So you can always, you know, you can always take that up. This is interesting because I mean, you're out in the West Coast, East Coast. I have this big thing lately about regional differences between players, and that's pretty clearly the extremes, right? The two coasts. Are there? Did you see differences between California players and I'll just say the East Coast players now that you come across?
Um, I think yeah, you could say that there's some differences. At the individual player level, I notice it more maybe at the team level.
Hmm.
Some different styles, and what I have started to connect to is what coaches and coach educators and what areas, what are clubs doing in terms of
Hmm.
their playing methodology and training methodology to see what influences are local.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of areas of the country that are where football's been developing recently, where now they have
Hmm.
pro teams and semi-pro teams and new youth clubs that have popped up with they're bringing in high-level coaches from
Yeah. Yeah.
wherever
Yeah.
with all kinds of different influences. So
Hmm.
I think that's changing it. You can't just say, well, it's a California team, therefore they're going to be a possession based team, and
Yeah.
they're going to be good on the ball because the weather is good and they're playing outdoor. Those things, may be true, or an East Coast team because it's thick grass and the
Yeah.
weather's not as good, and they're just going to launch it forward. I don't know that that's necessarily true anymore because
Hmm.
a lot of everywhere you go is turf fields, and there's you could go anywhere in the country and there might be a coach from Spain or Brazil or wherever, so there's all kinds of different influences now.
Hmm.
What I would say is, you in Southern California there is a tremendous Latino influence on the game, and now in San Diego you've got the San Diego Loyal professional team. There's been a few over the years, MPSL teams, and MLS franchises now coming to San Diego, and then the whole time there's been the Cholos across the border in Tijuana, and that that's had a really big influence on the game there. And there's also different pockets on the East Coast, but I haven't seen that same Latino influence to the extent that in Southern California or in some other areas of the country.
Yeah. It's just the thing for me because I know, like, grew up in Spain, and played there. That's why I started. And Spain's a small country, and you drive 2 hours in a direction. Now, I was in Barcelona, so Barcelona is very distinct the way it plays. You drive 2 hours, you go somewhere else, and the way they play there, the clubs that play totally a different style. And, some of this same, I would say Spanish folks for the longest time weren't exactly the biggest of people, so they had to learn how to play in a way that they can be competitive, and so I think that's where a lot of the tiki-taka came in, just to help them equalize that. So I have this thing, like, the United States is huge. We can't, a player from New Jersey, the worst thing I think would be a player from New Jersey or players from New Jersey being the same as a California players. Like, what a terrible loss of, right? Just because we're so big and all those, like you said, influences. That's a tangent, but that's my latest kick, right? Is just we want regional differences. We don't want cookie cutter players. We want to say, if you're building a team, the national team, you want to take guys who are East Coast bred because they're just, guys from Philly, New York, who are just hard nosed about the game, and then you want California kids because they're a little bit more technical, and you want, So anyhow, just me rambling. So I asked this question of Coach Dunshee when he was on, and I'll ask you about it, especially since it is for those watching, right? 2021, you come on board in this whenever 2021. And then in the fall, you had that banger of a season. I still think one of the greatest games I watched was the game you played against Montclair in the NCAA. It's an absolutely astounding game for me, soccer-wise, right? Like it had everything. What? How big of a deal is culture for you guys at Washington College?
Culture is everything. And it's, the 2021 season was many years in the making, where the focus was on culture, and it was before my time. But Coach Dunshee and his assistant, Dima, and other assistants in the past, they really focused on, let's bring in good guys, self-regulating guys. So then we can develop a self-regulating team, a team that's bought into what we're doing. And then over time, we want good guys that are also, really talented players. But you have to start with the culture piece. And that, Coach Dunshee is fantastic with that. Think about it in this way. We were talking the other day, and if you think about it in terms of what team would you rather play against? Would you rather play against a team, and let's say that team, they have suboptimal training and their tactics are suboptimal, but the team is fully bought in, versus a team where they have absolutely optimal training, their tactics are optimal, but not everyone's bought in? I'd rather play against the second team, because at some stage with that, with the discord and dissension in that team, they're going to break. It doesn't matter how talented they are, how organized they are, they're going to break. So that culture piece is absolutely massive, and it's not easy to build. It takes time to build and to maintain. It takes work, but it's so important.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's very true. I would have said the same thing. Like if I'm going to play a team, give me a team that you know that all it takes is one little bump in the road for them during a game, and they sort of collapse because they can't deal. They're just not in sync with each other, as opposed to. And you could watch. How many teams do I watch that I'm like, I absolutely cannot tolerate the way they play, but man, are they committed, and man, are they bought in, right?
Right.
It just, and they're so hard to beat. And who cares? They play the way they play, but man, they are all in. They are 110% in. And yeah, I would I would not want to play teams like that. All right, so let me ask you. I'm just looking at, first of all, two things I just noticed. I'm looking at your roster. Am I reading, or is this been up? Oh, this is 2023. So, do you have 14 seniors going into 2023, or do you have 14 seniors now?
Oh, what's a senior at this point?
Yeah, like, do you have people who are graduating this year? Or do you, yeah.
Yeah. So we have 6 fifth-year seniors returning for the fall.
Okay.
And then we have the true seniors, let's say, rising seniors this fall. I think we have 7. So, that's, the senior class, so to speak. So what we know for sure is the 6 fifth-years cannot come back and play for another year. That we know for certain. That class of rising seniors, we're not quite sure. But we don't know but that's the last class that has eligibility from COVID to come back.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have last year we had a big roster, and part of that was a couple factors of that was COVID and guys returning. And then another factor of that was we had a lot of success in 2021, so we had a big recruiting class that year. A lot of guys were very interested and great guys. So our roster grew a little bit. I think this year it's going to start to go back to what we would consider optimal.
Yeah, because you don't have freshmen. Okay, so that makes sense to me. It looks like that has because of your success, has your sort of, I would think Washington College is I don't mean this in a bad way, it's like a regional, like that's sort of your recruiting. You're like, hey, can I get kids from Maryland, New Jersey, those areas. Has it expanded because of that great run that you had in 2021?
I think so. It is, we very much, and part of this too is there's so much talent in the region.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So it's with the Division III budget and with the talent in the region, there's not a lot of reason for us to really go out and expand the search. That said, I think the success has had something to do with it. I think, the fact that there are also a lot of national showcases in the region. Yeah. And, I'm going to those and present at those and reaching out broadly. Also, reaching out to folks that I know from my time on the West Coast and just trying to grow, our reach a little bit. And the other thing too is not only is there so much talent in this area, there's also a concentration of D3 schools in the Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of areas in the country where there's no D3.
Nothing.
And so, part of my pitch is first of all, I have to explain what is Division III because,
Yeah.
in Southern California, there's a handful of schools. And in Arizona, there's zero. And in Florida, zero. And so
Zero. Yeah.
there's big areas, hotbeds of talent where they don't really know, okay, what is
Yeah.
D3 unless a parent or a coach has, lived on the East Coast or New England or Mid-Atlantic. So I'm reaching out to those areas to say, have you considered this experience? And of course, there's always kids who they grow up on the East Coast and they want to go to school on the West Coast, or they grow up on the West Coast and they want to go to school on the East Coast. So we're reaching out broadly, and I think the fact that we were had a successful year and we're kind of on a national stage that's helped to legitimize us in terms of recruits all over the country.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point that you make, and it just popped into my head. Like, I wonder how much talent in those states, those regions that have very little D3 exposure, how much talent just doesn't end up playing because they don't realize that there's an avenue that they can go pursue if they're willing, right? Like, hey, you're Florida kid coming up to Maryland isn't so crazy, right? Like, but unless they know about you guys, that might be it, and they could be a great. I mean, there's so much. I'm always amazed. I go to the showcases as well, refereeing, and it just amazes me the level of talent that some of these kids have, and for as much competition as there is for these players, there's plenty of players. Like it's. Everyone can have their pick of players that maybe not the ones that they exactly want, but there are kids who can make a difference. That's the part that always amazes me. But
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So let me ask. So 2021. I'll just preface this. 2021. You go 16s. You go to the dance after you beat Montclair. Yeah. Great season. You won the Centennial. And now 2022. Give me an assessment. Give me your cold-hearted assessment of how 2022 went.
Okay, there's two parts to this. On the one hand, right, the feeling was it wasn't a successful season, right? Coming off those wins and winning the conference, which is no easy feat. It's one of the toughest conferences in the country.
Centennial, like a back-to-back has got to be. I don't know but that's got to be near impossible these days, or very, very difficult to do.
Yeah, it's tough. And then going to the Sweet 16, and so. But if you look at some of the other, metrics, and I try to remind the players of this. We were we finished second in the regular season in the conference again. So we did the same thing in 2021. We finished second in the conference, lost in the conference semifinal, and we had the 9th ranked defense in the country. We created as many goal scoring chances as we did in 2021. We were, I would say, we were deeper than we were in 2021. We were more organized than we were in 2021. We just didn't score goals. We just couldn't find a way to score goals. And we had a couple of injuries to some attacking players who we thought had a lot of promise. I think that hurt us. We had to convert some guys into forward roles, and they did great. But it's not easy to do that. It's a different role, different responsibilities. So that I think hurt us. But we were good. We were a good team, a solid team, really tough to beat. And I don't know. Sometimes it was almost laughable that as a coach, you go through a season, you think, okay, we have one game here or there where you just can't score. You do everything but score. You hit the post, you hit the crossbar, goal line saves. You just can't score that game. Well, that seemed to be game after game after game for us. I don't know how many times we hit a post or a crossbar. We were in most of the games we were the protagonists, and we just couldn't finish. So, that's certainly a piece that we've been addressing this spring, and we look to improve on. But in terms of the season, we didn't have the same success in terms of results, but our team was good, and so I think we're building on strength going into next season.
Yeah. So you don't think it was like, I hate to say it, this is terrible. I don't know how to say it, but I'll just say it. Like, you don't think it was like a dip in talent. You just think it was just a dip in the record, but your talent is still as high as you think it was in 2021 when you did get to the Sweet 16.
Well, I would say, we lost James Strine and Greg Adams, to name two guys who scored 10 goals each in 2021. And were, those are guys who could create something out of nothing.
Nothing,
and they make you look really good as a coach. They're just super talented, and it was almost a feeling of, okay, when one of them scores, then it's like permission for everyone else. Okay, now we can score goals. And so we were definitely missing those guys. But we've got guys who are stepping up now, and we've focused a lot on the team intentions and team tactics in attack, so we can generate more chances and finish those chances. So I think, yes, those were super talented guys who we lost, but our average and our depth has gotten better every year.
Gotten better, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting you say that, because it's not obvious. It's pretty obvious why I asked that question, right? I mean, you went 7, 5, and 6, but I don't. To me, that to me is just a reflection of sort of how the games went. But the real numbers for me are that you lost or tied 10 games, and the games that you lost were 1 goal difference. Like, right? And that to me is like, I'm not saying luck plays a part in this too, but like 2021, where those results flip, you know what I mean? Did those 10 games go your way? And then 2022, you got to pay back the soccer gods, and nope, you're not going to get them go your way, right?
Right.
So that's what I noticed. I'm like, I didn't realize it was that significant. Like, it was that much of it. Like, that many games by the 1 goal difference that you dropped. So just by taking those into account, and your record is completely is completely different. It's back on par to 2021, right?
Well, that's something that we're looking at closely, because with the rule change to overtime and golden goal, and how are ties viewed in terms of do you get an at-large bid? Interestingly, I think from our pod in 2021, the Tufts, Redlands, and On Call, I think we all had the same record in 2022, 7, 5, and 6. So, and then Williams had a tremendous success, and they had a ton of ties. So, how is the tie calculated? Do you get points, or is it essentially a loss? That's going to factor in, I think, to the decision making of coaches during games. Do we go for it before 90? Is a tie just the same as a loss? So let's go for it anyway. It's certainly something we're looking at. And 2021, if we gave up 2 goals, it's like, okay, no problem, we'll score 3.
Exactly. That's a great point. Yep, you got it. We'll get 3. They can score whatever. We'll get the 3. We're good.
And last year it was, okay, we just need 1 goal. We just need 1 and we'll win. So that was frustrating at times. The guys showed a lot of resilience and determination to keep going. And I mean, we had some games where it was, like I said, everything but scoring, and the other team had 1 shot, 1 goal 2 shots, 2 goals. We had one game, only one game where we gave up 2 goals.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
That's
it was tough.
and you kind of like I gotta believe at some point in the season, Coach Dunshee, you like were just kind of like I don't know what else to do. Like what we just got to score. I don't know how much. I don't know if there's anything else that we can expect to do. Right? Like I mean, you do. It's almost self fulfilling at a certain point, right? Like you keep having this struggle to just get a goal, and then it's like you go into games like, oh my God, are we going to score a goal? You know, and it just sort of
You know, yeah,
snowballs out.
ugly goals. I don't care.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. There's no beauty points. Like friggin' put
yeah,
the ball in the back of the net. We'll take it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Joking with our goalkeepers. Can you score? But also, credit to our opponents. I mean, we play a very tough
Yeah, yeah,
school, but they
yeah.
don't make it easy. And
No.
so, great. So we have to get better as coaches. We have to get better as players.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I bet you your goalkeeper said, "Yeah, sure, coach. I can score goals. I know how to do it." It's
Yeah.
like, let me just ask you because you did have the 6 ties: Salisbury, York, Muhlenberg, Johns Hopkins. Which what a banger of a game that was. Catholic, Swarthmore. Um, I mean, what were your thoughts? Now that you had a good number of ties. Would you have preferred to go to OT for those, or do you think, like the way things were going, you would have played 6 games and you would still ended up with 6 ties, or on the wrong end of the scoreboard?
Yeah, it's there's 2 ways that I look at this. One is strategic and objective, and the other is from a sentimental perspective. On the strategic side, the way that we operate as a team is we back ourselves in overtime. We think that we're fit and we're fresh, we're deep, we're organized, and we want to be an aggressor who we want to go in thinking, yeah, this is our game, and if anyone's going to score, we're going to score the next goal. That said, we also understand, okay, well, who is our opponent? And where are we in the table, and what do we need from this game, and what are the next games? So you can look at it strategically and make a good case against a team like Hopkins and say, okay, we tied 1-1. If we had a choice, do we go to overtime or not? Okay, maybe in this case we don't. Or you could make a case and say, no, they were dominant in the first half. We've been the aggressor in the second half, and we think we're good to go for the second half. So there's that. On the sentimental side of things, I love golden goal. I love overtime. I mean, the best moments. When you're in those moments and you've got to be so zoomed in, so focused as a coach, and it demands so much of you as a player, win or lose. I mean, those are moments that will stick with me for the rest of my life. The semifinal golden goal against F&M at home, where it seemed like the entire campus, the entire town was there. That's something that's going to be like institutional memory for the school. That moment was amazing. And same token, when we lost to Tufts at Tufts in the Sweet 16 on a golden goal, that heartbreak, but I'll remember it. And I'm glad to say to have been there and gotten to experience that. So yeah, I love those moments. I think our guys love those moments. Yeah, I think in most situations our instinct is go for it because we back ourselves in those moments.
Yeah, I don't know. There's good ties and gooder ties. Like I and how that I just don't know if there's a formula for that. But I do know, and I said it from when the rule first came out, and I was asking the question like, oh, is it going to change the way you approach a game? And everybody was like, no, we're still going to go for the win. Baloney. I think the reality is, like you said, hey, we're playing Johns Hopkins at Hopkins. I don't know. Did you play him there or was it
We were at
whatever?
home
It doesn't.
twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but even if you just went, if you again, home or away doesn't matter. You're playing Johns Hopkins. You're playing Johns Hopkins. Like a 1-1 draw at the end of a game against Johns Hopkins, under any circumstance for, I'll just say, just about every team, that's not a bad result.
Right.
Whereas, hey, you go to, you're at home against Paul College for the blind. You're right. You're a tie is a terrible thing for you, and so yeah, it's going to impact the way you're going to coach because you don't want that tie then, right?
Right, and
So
the momentum of the game, and you're also factoring in, okay, how fatigued are our players? What's
yep,
the
yep,
fixture schedule looking like?
yeah,
Hopkins is, I mean, yes, they're super talented. They can score at any moment. The other thing is they're really fit, and
yeah,
so
yeah,
that overtime is,
brutal.
more than likely we're going to be playing 30 minutes of and end up 0-0, and it's going
Yeah,
to be an absolute overload on our players.
yeah,
So
yeah,
will we
totally.
recover for the next game? So these are
Yeah,
all
yeah,
things that you think
yeah,
about,
yeah. Very
and
true.
and then where you are, do you need the 3 points, or
Yeah,
you've qualified for the conference playoffs? Your position isn't going to change much, and so you walk
yeah,
away with a draw. So yeah,
yeah,
these are
yeah, yeah.
all considerations.
Totally agree. Totally agree. All right, so a couple more questions. I'll let you get on with your day, your legal practice, and recruiting, which I'm still trying to figure out how you would do that during the day. Hey, what uh, what did you guys? What was there a focus for the spring for you all? Did you have a particular mission that you wanted to accomplish in your 6 week, 5 weeks, whatever it was?
Yeah, we did. I think there are two parts. First, we need to score goals. That is evident from the fall, and not just score goals, but that starts with building up. So we took a look at sort of revamping our, not revamping, but refining, tweaking our team intentions in attack, with the idea of, okay, we're good at possessing, but can we progress more? Can we get forward more? If we have the same return on chances created to converted,
Mm-hmm.
we need to double our chances.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we need to be able to get the ball forward, and that doesn't mean kick and hope. That
Mm-hmm.
means in a very deliberate way where everyone's
Right.
on the same
Yeah.
page. The communication is
Yeah.
top, and so that was the main focus.
Mm-hmm.
Our defense has been very good. Our transition to defense has been very good, and so our focus was primarily on attacking. And I think the other thing about attacking is, if we get better at attacking and building up and doing it in different ways and different looks, then when we're training in 11v11, which we pretty much always do, our defending has to get better, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it goes both ways. So that was a major focus, and the other focus I would say is giving a lot of time and attention and putting a lot of responsibility on younger players.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned before that fifth year class that was coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those guys did not participate in the spring season. They were off doing other things, and
Mm-hmm.
so it was a good. And those guys are huge contributors on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Those are guys who were leading the way in 2021 and before. So it was a great opportunity to give more responsibility, more attention to our younger guys who are emerging, and really develop them so that they can, take the team forward in the future, and push the guys who are a little bit older than them, and just help develop our depth. So those were the two focuses for us this spring.
What what does your recruiting class look like coming in? Big, small, anything of note that you would highlight?
Yeah. We've got 5 guys coming in, and we're really excited about these guys coming in. This is, they're just like the guys we have now. They're smart, they're funny, they're conscientious, they're ambitious, and we've spent a lot of time looking at them and meeting them and their families. I think they're going to be a great fit for our program. It's a talented class on paper. The youth experience that they've had is really high level. So, it's always a question mark of okay, how soon can you adapt and deal with the demands at the next level. So it's exciting, and I'm really excited for them to get to know our 5th-year guys who are coming back, to have that transfer of institutional knowledge of the team culture. I think that'll be huge for our program moving forward. So we're really excited about the group we have coming in, and it's small because we're trying to get back to closer to 30. Last year we were at 35, which is a big roster for us. So yeah, really excited about this class. A lot of talent and just genuine great guys.
Last one for you. Outside of scoring goals, what sort of goals do you have in mind for the fall that you care to share and are not become part of some inspiration board for one of the Centennial Conference teams that says, "Look what Washington College said."
Sure. Yeah. I think process goals. We just want to optimize the process. We want to onboard the incoming guys as quickly as possible, and we want to, increase our coaching and learning tempo in the preseason. A lot of focus has been on defending. The new focus in the spring has been on attacking. So we've got to get everybody, up to speed, and then keep innovating, keep developing. So, just maximizing and optimizing our process is the main goal. I think, the guys understand that we have depth and talent and organization and fitness, and we have all the components. We can't be our own worst enemy, Yeah. With the season, with the schedule that we play in conference and out of conference, teams are not going to let us get away with that.
No.
And we also know that if we do these things, that we optimize our process, and if guys kind of put their ego to the side a little bit and just be about the team, that we can really do well. We can win the Centennial Conference. We can go into the NCAA tournament. I don't think that's out of our grasp, as difficult as it is, and it's going to be difficult. But focusing on the process and maximizing every opportunity we have. I think also for our 5th-year guys, they're coming back and they want, frankly, they want a repeat of 2021, and they want to do even better.
Yeah.
But they also are looking at this from a perspective of legacy, right? Can I make this is my last opportunity as a player on this team to not just have a good single year and be a good, team, but can we be a program and can we take a program and turn that into a community, right? So I think they're starting to grasp that, to leave the program better than when they joined, right? And it's not just about themselves, but it's about the bigger picture. So, so I think those are our goals, going into it. It's just maximize our process, squeeze as much out of the players as we can, and keep progressing. And the results are largely out of our control, so we try to focus on what we can control.
Can control, yeah. You're there. I always say, like, especially as teams are built. I don't want to say building, but you're in a process, right? You're in a process to get better, and better. 2021 is a great accomplishment, but to me, it's like testing your ceiling, and then you come back down, and then you sort of recalibrate to test the ceiling again. And how much higher can you go? And I think the teams over time that sort of do that calibration, and they're very few, if any, teams start off the year and have a spectacular year and make it and win the national championship. That doesn't exist. Teams have years and years and years of building to those moments, and success and failure, I think, is what determines that. Coach, hey, thanks. This was fantastic. I'm a big fan of you guys, Coach Dunshee, and you, and the work you've done. Really, really impressive. Fun to watch. One of these days, would love to check out a game in your stadium.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Cheer on. See, I can blend, right? I got the hat. I blend. I blend really well in those situations. So, thank you very much. Appreciate the time. Wish you all the best, and have a great summer. And wish you all the best in the fall to you and your men.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for what you do and bringing some attention to this little, niche of D3 soccer. Thanks for spending your time with me. I'm happy to share some thoughts on our program, and more than welcome to join us anytime this fall.
I'll report to camp.
So,
I'll report to camp. I'll be there.
Okay.
I'll have my cleats. Shape. Who needs the beep test? I'll figure it out. All right, Coach.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Thanks.